Hello, the people. We are
Hello,
here.
the people. We are, yes. Hello, the people. We are live. We are live.
And
So,
we've missed you. And we're really happy that we're back and that you're back.
exactly. Welcome, everyone, So, I actually realized that I made a mistake. This is, in the post that I put out, it says office hours number 4, and it should actually be number 3. But I think it's a feature, not a bug, because people will be looking for number 3 and we'll be like, it was the secret episode that
Yeah.
you
More
need
intimate.
to, you should be sorry that you missed it. So it's number 3, but it's really number 4. I'm Yaniv Korem. With you is Suzanne Voss and the man of the hour, the legend. I'm going to call you the legend. I don't know why.
The man, the legend, the Dan.
The legend. Yes, the Dan. Dan Levy, Mr. Levy from More Space for Light.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome, my friend.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Thanks for being on the show. So you both are from Australia, or broadcasting from Australia. I'm broadcasting from Israel. So we've got kind of like this really international thing happening now, which is pretty cool.
Australian, Yaniv.
I'm what?
Neither of us are Australian, if that's a bit of a mind bender for you.
That is interesting. Well, it is kind of, it was like, right, founded as a colony of folks who like didn't have anywhere else to go, right? Australia.
Well, do you know where the phrase mate comes from?
No.
From inmate.
Oh, I
Fun
did not
fact.
know that. Wow.
At least this is what I've heard and what I've seen on the internet. So, don't believe everything, but the internet is usually not wrong.
So the internet doesn't lie. That's what I've been told. The internet tells the truth.
It's all facts.
It is. Yeah, everything. It's gossip.
Like the Oracle.
Just don't trust anyone but the internet. That's what I tell people. Just the internet.
Facebook. Yeah.
To get your facts.
Validation. Go on the internet. Your answer is there.
Parenting by the internet. Yeah.
For sure. No, what I was gonna say before you guys interrupted me was that I have a special place in my heart for Australia. I've never been, but for some reason I know a shitload of people from Australia, and they're all awesome. So it for me that equals an awesome place. And I'm waiting for the COVID situation to kind of sort itself out. Then I'm on a plane to come visit you, Dan.
Me?
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome Australian friends. No, I'm joking. Yeah. Come to Adelaide. Yeah.
Come to Adelaide.
Come to Sydney. I always say either fly in or fly out of Adelaide. Like you fly into Adelaide, it's super chilled. You fly out and you know that you know that you're just like in a really good headspace. You fly. I used to live in Sydney. You fly in and fly out of Sydney, and it's just like any international airport. It's super busy. Adelaide, it's like a country town, but an international airport. It's like this beautiful new airport, super quiet, super easy, no fuss, like just in and out. It's brilliant. Love it.
Awesome.
Instantly to the top of the travel list now. Sounds fabulous.
Yeah, well, I also have to
and there's wine.
Yeah, South Australia itself is a fantastic place, but you can go on LinkedIn and see all the people talking all about it, on Facebook talking all about it. But yeah, it's an amazing place.
Yeah. All right. Okay, maybe let's start with some context. Dan, tell the people who you are.
Okay, so my name's Dan Levy. I run a consultancy called More Space for Light. We are a strategy and corporate innovation consultancy, and we use the tools of design thinking to help clients overcome challenges related to strategy, process, product, and service. We design new futures, new potential ideas. We help organizations come together for blue sky thinkings. We create safe spaces to enable teams to explore and test new futures.
Nice. Where did the name come from? It's kind of an unusual, and everyone like makes fun of me that I like call it the School of Innovation because it's kind of long. It's hard to fit on a logo. Where the name More Space for Light come from?
Can I just riff off of that? The name More Space for Light is horribly long in the respect of if you ask for a receipt and they say, what's your email address? And they hand you the iPad and you're trying to hold your dinner and all your other stuff and you have like More Space. Like, I'm just glad it's Dan at More Space. That's how I feel like I'm winning. It's not like Daniel. So I feel like I'm saving on those 3 letters. There.
Every character counts, man.
Levy, like, it's just wicked. So I feel like I nailed the first name, but the name itself is starting to, So the name actually comes from my little boy, the true CEO, Max, and I was working for another agency at the time, a marketing agency, and I kind of was going through this time of trying to figure out what do I want to be when I grow up? What do I want to do? And for ages, I'd always wanted to do something for myself, but I never had the courage. And it was, when you do something big, there's lots of pressure points that are happening and signals, and then eventually you just have to make the leap.
Yes.
My little boy, one night I was putting him to sleep, and I always work crazy hours. And he said, "Mummy, I want more space for light." And kids say the most complicated things, but super simple. Like you can like super deep, but super simple. And I said to my wife, I was like, what does that mean? And she said, well, he wants more time to play. He wants more time to read. He's not ready to go to bed yet. He's not done with the day. And I just thought to myself, holy, that's what I want. And I'm sure the people that I'd love and aspire to work with and work for would want that as well. And I believe that I can provide that. And I like coming from a design background with no real understanding of business. I just went and registered the domain name and that was it. I was off.
Nice.
Done. Business sorted. Here we go, Richard Branson.
That's how entrepreneurs operate. Lock in the domain first. That's it. The business is up and running.
There's something in it. I've got the philosophy. Everyone's always talking about having a mission. I've got the mission and the philosophy. I'll figure out the business stuff as I go along. And so that was pretty much the launch. And when we started More Space, I saw a gap in the user experience and service design space at the time because I always felt that there was a missing middle. And Suzanne, maybe from your product experience, especially where you're from, I know how important of a discipline user experience and service design is in mapping the world for customers to connect with the organization. That, from an agency perspective, can often be missed because they just want to get to the execution. And I felt that seeking the problem and ensuring there was alignment between business objectives and business strategy and creative or production or execution or whatever it might be was a massive gap. And that was where I was looking to go. But what happened was I was talking more and more with execs and people in the C-suite and delivering strategies and that sort of stuff. And it just got to a point where I was like, you guys have this creative capability and capacity. And I was using these tools and running design sprints and workshops. And then about most probably 3 years ago, I think we pretty much 90% of our work is facilitation and design programs now.
Wow.
Working with like execs and teams and that, helping them.
Yeah, it's amazing. And can I respond before we go back to your list, Yaniv?
No, my list, forget it. Like, I'll be the responsible adult here with the list, but yeah, you go and play.
I'll just keep trying to disrupt
Derail
the
me.
conversation. No, because I think it's really valuable. So being part of a large corporate, what I see a lot is that people want to make change. They want to be more customer focused. They want to be better. But then the challenge that they have is everybody is driven by this day-to-day delivery, right? So now I'm talking more about transformational, business unit-driven initiatives, not innovation lab where people are really sort of thinking about innovation 24/7, but really more the people closer to the day-to-day delivery, they want to step into the shoes of their customer, but then what does it actually look like, right? How do you design for someone if you've never done that before? So then actually being able to leverage off someone who has done it before, who can provide the team the tools, the stories, this is how you can do it, and showing them how it's done. And what you said just now, like linking that back to the strategies, is so powerful to bring it all back together. Like, okay, day to day, these are the people that you interact with. These are some of their struggles. These are some of the pain points. And here's how we can map them out. We can use this persona tool to make it more specific. We can use a customer journey to show how you are part of a bigger thing, and then see within that, how holistically can we solve for this? And doing that whole exploration of the context of the problem before moving into execution mode is so important. And it's so difficult to get people into that mind space of, no. We are first going to take a step back and map this out before we move into execution mode, as that is where people somehow feel more comfortable because it's what they're used to do. Like, just, this is the thing, let's just build it and run with it, instead of really being forced almost to take that step back. But once they see the light, they never move back from it. At least that's my
experience. Suzanne, sometimes they don't see the light. And also, just picking up on two things, I'm really glad you mentioned context, because often people in the UX and service design field find they paint themselves into a corner because they only spin the customer and user experience plate, and they detach themselves from business. So it's really important. Like, anything about this is all, I always say, it's all about sales. It's all about finding your champions, and also about providing context. What does this world look like? And going back to what you were saying about people feeling more comfortable and confident in the execution space, that's because they are doing something, and they also have something tangible that they can be measured by. So the people feel that something indicates progress. Mindset change is something so much bigger, and trying to shift an organization to think and act differently is a very, very big thing.
Absolutely. And but what I find so maybe paradoxically initially is that by actually pulling people back first and doing that problem research, you actually make it so much more tangible what impact you can make later, because you have that view of what the status quo looks like. So then later you can actually say, well, for example, sales results, or even more so, human error reduction, or making processes more efficient. But then you need to have that baseline. And so afterwards, it makes your solution so much more powerful if you actually do that problem research.
Mm-hmm. How did you figure out that facilitation is it for you guys? Like, like, there are a lot of innovation consultancies out there, and I'm kind of thinking like, okay, what was like the value proposition is key, and you're putting a lot of focus into facilitation. What were like the hints that made you realize this is what we should be focusing on? This is like our main, it's like core of our.
I'll let you go first.
Suzanne?
No, you can go first.
I think not really.
You guys are too.
All right.
A lot of people are talking about facilitation, and it feels like maybe I'm trying to figure out if this is like a COVID thing, or is it kind of like a 21st century skill kind of thing?
You go. I'll sit back.
Well, okay. So if you have good facilitation, you don't know you're being facilitated. That's the first thing. So I think it's really impressive that you've so tangibly made it your business, right? Because as a good facilitator, you're almost invisible. I feel like, it just goes really well if you're being facilitated well. And I think then specifically in this new COVID world where a lot of us are working remotely, having distributed teams, I notice if I'm facilitating a meeting, but I also have to contribute to this meeting, for example, if it's a team meeting, I always go over time, or I forget something that's always also on the agenda. So you have all these hats on at the same time. But then if you have someone actually facilitating the meeting and making sure that someone who is not involved in the content streamlines the conversation and makes sure that everybody is bringing something to the table with or without virtual collaboration tooling, which I hope we can also touch upon, as I think they are absolutely key to facilitate a deeper conversation with people, bringing out different thoughts and also enabling different thinkers. I think facilitation will become more and more important. And I think it's also a very core leadership skill. The end. Back to you, Dan.
Dan.
Yeah.
I
agree with you in regards to core leadership skill. Get into the so coming from a making background, I think one of the hardest task, and this is something that I impress upon new members of the team, is as a facilitator, our job's done our job's done in terms of solution. Once we have come up with the program, our solution is the program. That doesn't mean that we don't adapt during the meeting. Our design is the design of the conversation to meet the objectives of the client. It's not to participate. Our goal, our persona of More Space is as a guide. We're the guide. And it's tough. In regards to, was it an intentional move into that world? It was not an intentional move into that world. I know we're going to segue into design sprints, but I think for me, I kind of fell into that world through design sprints, because where I wanted More Space to be positioned was working with organizations that were future thinkers, that were brave, that were making big, bold steps. And initially, the only way I felt that I could be part of that conversation is if I was helping facilitate a conversation to enable that to happen. And I soon found out that you can't do everything. You can't be facilitator, maker, because facilitation a workshop shouldn't be a sales tool. It is the part of the process. It's not the process step to come now meet our development team or whatever. This is in a silo to fit in a system, or to fit in, an agile or BAU or another cycle, whatever it is. And what I found was I was really enjoying watching teams unlock their creative capacity, unlock the subject matter experts, as opposed to outsourcing innovation in these conversations. They had the capabilities in the team to be able to come up with these great outcomes. They wouldn't be polished at a high fidelity level, but they were good enough to have a conversation. They were good enough to see new opportunities. For example, one of our major clients this morning, I bumped into one of the participants in the workshop. We ran this workshop, which was super, super complex design sprint for process operation of a really I'd say complex operation. And they shared with me that the result of the sprint was that they were able to realize new opportunities for innovation, which they've actually put into action. And the consequence or the result of the sprint was that it enabled them to have those conversations. It enabled them to look at and realize new opportunities and potentials. And that to me is so much better than helping with the product that, when you start bogging down in all of that.
I think it's also more challenging though, because I think it's more challenging, but it's also more powerful. And let me just explain. So I find it more challenging as a facilitator, as you've said really well. You are facilitating the conversation. You're not influencing the outcome. You really just make sure that everybody's heard, everybody's part of the process, and it's up to the people to create the content, right?
Yeah.
And to make the decisions. And you are just there to facilitate. You are, the Sharpies and the whiteboard and the Post-its. You're almost on that level. You're there to enable and to facilitate. And that's why I said, it's a leadership skill, because it's not imposing anything. It's really just unleashing all that creative energy. But on the other hand, indeed, as so many consultants are also hired to actually deliver stuff and build products, do you find that sometimes the expectations are misaligned, or that you are expected to have an opinion or to make a decision or to drive something a certain direction? Or is it actually something that's really appreciated that you're being so impartial?
The thing is, I'm comfortable in that space. And when it gets to the end and they need help, I can help facilitate the next part of that. Do you need us to help you find the right partner? Do you need us to, guide you in that direction? If they do ask, like there has been workshops that I know I've spoke, like I'm sound like a massive hypocrite now, but there have been workshops where there has been actual tangible, can you provide strategic outcomes out of that, or help manage suppliers, etc., out of that, because we have, as a team, we have that capability because we use it for ourselves and we come from that world as well. But it's never like I end a design sprint or I end a design program or a futuring program. Sorry, the table's wobbling.
It's your excitement. It's okay. It's okay.
It's not an earthquake in Adelaide, don't worry. I'm thinking of the next, like, how do we scale this conversation so we can get more people involved? Not how do we take this and build this? It's like, who else do we need to engage? How can we validate this? How can we incorporate this into your process? So that's the mindset, and I think that's been an evolution. And like you said, Suzanne, like facilitating a room is really, really difficult because you can only control certain things, and once that workshop starts, you're only influencing to some degree, because what I find is if you don't have the right people in the room to solve the problem or have the conversation, it's like swimming in treacle. It can be.
Yeah, and I think this is also a really cool transition to design sprints, if this is also according to your plan, Yaniv. As
what are they?
I think
my plan went out the window. That's it.
No more plan.
I do want to. I want to. Before we dive into design sprints, I do want to maybe pause for a second. Dan, how do you? So in many situations, it feels like facilitation is not enough, right? It's companies are looking for that like tangible outcome at the end. They want the app, they want the product, like they want something at the end. How do you sell, quote unquote? How do you convince them? How do you influence that? There's in the value of just the facilitation, like what?
Yeah, it's interesting. So a lot of our I keep saying sprints, but a lot of our programs now, design programs, are being based around strategy, are being based around helping the team think beyond what's possible. So a lot of the outcomes are conversational, are meant to be seeded back into subject matter experts within the organization. So where they're struggling to have an impartial conversation. They need a mediator to bring people together. They need to get people that would not necessarily be prepared to share, feel trusted and safe. Like my goal when I come into the room as a facilitator is to immediately put everybody on the same playing field, make them know that I'm part of the team, even though my role in the team is to facilitate, but they are still members of the team, so they still need to contribute. Demonstrate that vulnerability, show it's a safe space, and then get them invested, get some skin in the game so they feel comfortable and they feel invested. So, once that's my initial goal, but like the conversations we're having, even if it does come down to product and that, these teams already know kind of what they're trying to achieve from a business perspective, like a product or something tangible. They need to just bring the right minds, get the right information, align people, get buy-in, all that sort of stuff, prioritize. That's our role.
Yeah. That's a great answer. Thanks for that. Suzanne, take it away into design sprints. Yes. Let's get into design sprints now.
Dive into them.
Diving in head first.
Well, what you've just mentioned now, again, it's all about getting the right people in the room, right? Getting the right minds in the room, and having participated in a design sprint once upon a time, there was so much effort put into finding the right people, making sure we had the right decision makers. And I've also seen design sprints not really leading to the desired results because not the right people were in the room. And I think, so I'm really curious to hear your thoughts around that. I think this is true for most programs. Also right now we're setting up new project teams. And just today we had a discussion in our own team, like, okay, but who needs to be in these teams? Who has skin in the game? Who has a drive to solve for this? And based on that, to make sure that we have the right people actually working on it day to day, versus what does senior sponsorship look like? Who needs to sign off at the top to make sure that this will work? Who needs to flex their senior muscles to actually make it all the way through implementation, given that we validate that there's a problem to solve here? So I was just wondering how you manage these kinds of complexities from the outside, right? As what you said, you can prepare all kinds of stuff, but once you're in the room, these are the people that are in the room.
And something else, let me just sell right here. There's no such thing as a perfect workshop. It's all about, like, I can tell Arki, one of the people on my team, I'll just look at her and I go, Arki, what do you reckon? And she'll go, it's good energy today. And it's just feeling the energy in the room as well. We've got process in place. So for example, going back to getting the right people, there's simple tools that we use. We've product managers or the CEO or whoever is in charge or has engaged us to be able to map out the world, to understand roles and responsibilities and how they connect, to be able to then transfer that across to see who are the most relevant people, or who from department-wise the most relevant people to be represented. Then from design sprints, something we learned was to incorporate problem framing. And you might have heard of problem framing seems to be the new black of workshops, but it's more like common sense, because the outcome of a decent problem framing session, whether that's a couple of hours, it's asynchronous over like conversations over Zoom or whatever it might be, are a challenge, an actual tangible challenge or subset of challenges with an indication of how abstract to how concrete they are, so you can work out how much work needs to be done in the discovery process to be able to facilitate some form of program or consultation or whatever that might be. And as well as that challenge, you'll get alignment, prioritization from the wider exec team and buy-in. Mm-hmm. You'll then also, from that challenge or that problem framing session, you'll understand the people that are relevant, whether they're up or downstream, they're internal or external, whether they're customers or stakeholders, and how you build out that design sprint or that design program team, whether they're participants, they're people that are subject matter experts that are providing intel, they're people to just come in and validate and sense check, as well as the final thing, the people that are impacted most. The other side of the coin, which would be your customers, your patients, the suppliers, whoever might be, that are the actual people that consume the service, that don't facilitate and run the service and operate, etc. So you can ensure that you have the right people to have the conversation and the right people to validate and give feedback, so you know whether you're on the right path.
Maybe can you give us kind of because you mentioned a tool that you guys use to figure out who the
shotgun,
right shotgun, a knife to their throat. No, but it's like
they say knife.
No, I'm thinking of you of like with a clipboard and you're like with a checklist and it like.
Oh no.
How does that work?
What do you mean, a tool? How do we choose the right people?
Yes. Yeah. How do you the company has its own ideas. You have your own experience. You meet in the middle somehow, I guess. Okay.
So rather than going into the tools, it's what we do, because one of the hardest things, and I'm sure Suzanne, you'll appreciate this being from a bigger company, is you're going to have a conversation, and it's like everybody wants to be part of this conversation. I can't miss out on this conversation. Like 30 people, you send out the invite, and then they see somebody else, and you're like,
everybody wants to be in the sprint as well. Everybody wants to be in the design sprint. Everybody.
And the general rule I have is the more participants, the more general the outcome. So for specificity, which is a word I struggle to say, I had more C's in that, specificity. I could go on all day. If you have less people, you'll get a better outcome. More people, because you always have to dumb it down, because you can't have too many people that might not have that level of maturity. And this is just decision-making. I'm sorry?
The speed of decision making, because you have more stakeholders to manage.
Oh, and people are like, what was that? You always have to rewind. I'm finding this as well in some of the programs that we're running, that because I've been conditioned with timers and that over the last few years, I'm having to slow down, because I'm just like, right, we've made that decision, let's move on. And everyone's like, whoa. So I'm learning.
Decision? What?
Yeah,
who?
yeah, the dirty word, decision. But with so what you need to do is, as a facilitator, you have to be smart in regards to how you incorporate people, because you can have a core team and you can still bring other people into the conversation. You can have them come in to validate and check in. You can have them different parts. You could have them participate in a different part of the program. You can get the people to showcase to them. People just want to be involved. They want to feel like they're part of the process.
Yeah. We have a question about that, actually, from the audience. Shu Yun asks, yes, how many people do you think is a good number for a session? I think the Jake Knapp's book says 5 to 7, I think.
Jake
but
doesn't know what he's talking about. He just writes a book.
We said we weren't going to do that, right? We have the highest respect for
absolute dude.
Dude. Yes.
So I owe Jake money, actually, because it's just funny stuff. So I ordered the design sprint book when it first came out. I was super excited. I heard the interview on The Startup, which is an amazing podcast, and they came in to Gimlet and did it. And I followed the articles, and I tried to piece it all together. And the book came out. I ordered it. I got 2 copies, one free. And nice. And I know. And I
Jake,
gave it
if you're wondering where the money is from the other book.
Yeah, he's like $30 down, $29.95 I owe him, and Aussie dollars, which works out to like nothing in American, I think. And I gave it to somebody, and I put on a Post-it note, because I said, this book will change your life. I was working in a government. We had a government contract, and I was there, and I left it in their drawer, and days, they didn't take it out their drawer for like days and weeks. And eventually the contract ended, and I just opened the drawer, took it, and took my free copy back with me. I thought, they don't deserve my free copy of Sprint.
You don't deserve this knowledge.
Yeah, it was like, yeah.
Okay, so how many people? How many people?
So I think no more than 8 for a design sprint. 6 to 8.
Day-to-day being part of the process, right? But not necessarily the wider stakeholders you can involve for show and tells, or being on standby for doing some research with them, or showing prototypes and that kind of stuff.
6 to 8 for the actual conversation. And something to bear in mind as well is, if you're going to get the team to prototype, there is nothing worse than not having a role for somebody on prototype day, because they just sit there with this face on them, like, you have to keep, because you're doing loads of other stuff, like you're getting the room ready, you're checking the testing questions, you're making sure that all the test subjects are going to be there. You might even be transcribing and like talking to you, because I bring in a co-facilitator to help me. So, I'm constantly coordinating the room. The room's basically my canvas. I'm just like moving things around, and so you can't bring a passenger along. There can't be any passengers in any type of design program. If you've got somebody in the room that hasn't got something to bring, they shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Boom. Mic drop.
Yes. Thank you, Shu Yun. Yes. Thank you, Shu Yun, for the question or the comment. Keep them coming. If you have more, Dan is here to answer all your comments and questions. So please keep them coming.
Also, something else to bear in mind if you're running design sprints, and is be smart in the testing process, because the design sprint recommends you have, I think it's five people testing. And the way we've run testing, we've basically reformatted and repurposed testing, because the types of sprints that we've run mean that basically you can't like do it over and over again. For example, we ran a design sprint with an organization for a performance, for a theatrical performance. Now you can't run the 5 times. So I
want to join. How do I join? I bring stuff to the table, Dan. I'll help.
But we just redesigned that. We did one the other week for financial planning, to change from annual to rolling plan. And can you imagine how the impact of that? And the way we reconditioned the way we tested as well. We batch test, we split people up so they come back together. We use online spreadsheet tools so people can like put their feedback into like Google Drive or whatever it is, so we can bring that all together. Because the other thing is, you've got all these pages of Post-its that you have to kind of consolidate and crunch down as well, and just put what's relevant. So the other thing is like less is more. So I'm not going to try and get people to do more and more. And that's really important as a facilitator, that if you want people to only choose 3 notes and read out 3 notes and put them on the board, don't let them anymore. If you only want people to do 2 dots and no more, that is it. Because what happens is you end up with a mess. Like people are, there's just too many, or people like trying to rip dots in half. And you've got to be a real like, these are the rules. Like, so these are the
guidelines. My experience is if you're very clear in terms of, these are the rules, these are the boundaries, and this is how we're going to do it, I hardly ever have people actually pushing back. Like they will test it, I guess, just like kids would test it. But ultimately, people really also have a sense of relaxation once they know what they can and cannot do, and that they just have to follow your lead in terms of being facilitated.
Well, also, so if there's something that needs, like, if people want to break the rules, that usually means that something isn't being said. So which says, so coming back to what you were saying before, Suzanne, way back in regards to the role of the facilitator. The role of facilitator is not to contribute in the conversation. The role of the facilitator, if you think of a line, everybody that is in the workshop is thinking about the content, where the content's going, how can they get heard, how can they do this? I'm thinking, and as a facilitator, you should be thinking externally. What am I listening to? What am I missing? How involved in the room am I, where I can't pick up the cues that I need to adapt, I need to change, I need to stop, we need to have a break? And that's like, you know, that's
you like, feel the resistance sometimes when it's not working. When for example, you say, 2 dots only, and if you then feel it's not happening, it's not going, people are pushing back, that's when you then have that self-awareness of like, all right, this is not about the dots. It's we need to take a step. It's like a Dr. Phil moment. Like it's not about the dots. You know that episode? It's like it's not about the dog. No, so inside Dr. Phil joke. Okay, never mind. It's okay.
No. I get it. It's not about the dots, but I have. So we ran a workshop yesterday, and we got to the end, and it got a bit chaotic towards the end. We had 16 people. It was super chaotic. And I had this little footy ball AFL Aussie rules ball that my little 5-year-old's boy, it was 3 when he had it, and it's all battered and tattered. And what I do is I have this exercise called the ball of truth, and I pass it, and because people are holding something and they're not like, it's not talking, they're talking through the ball, I get them to share feedback, and I say, and I frame the conversation, because I've seen it already. I'll start with the ball of truth, and I'll tell them that this is my young boy's ball. And if you lie to my son, who's 5 years old and doesn't know anything. And then I'll share, look, this is what I'm feeling and sensing in the room. And I'll call out all the elephants. and I'll go, who wants to go next, and then pass it on. And that way we've got that elephant, because everyone, when you ask for feedback, everyone's like, oh, that was brilliant, I learned this, I learned that, until somebody gives you a terrible piece of feedback. So
and then
if
suddenly,
yeah, and that's good, because like, as a facilitator, it's so hard to get feedback. So if you can get feedback and read the room and get other people to help you read the room, you know, that's magic.
Well, yeah, you're showing behavior that you want to see as well, right? So you're not just saying, hey, I want feedback, or hey, let's do this, but you actually say it and then you show it, which then empowers people to actually follow your lead because you've already done it, so it's less scary.
Yeah, you're modeling it. They model you, sorry. Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah. Absolutely.
We're getting sort of close. No, we're getting sort of close to the end because yeah, I know. This is maybe we should do like a part. Maybe we should go backwards. Maybe we should actually do office hours number 3. Because we skipped it.
Well, we can do like design sprints 101 or program design 101. What is actually a design sprint? Because I don't think we've actually touched upon it. We just assumed that everybody knew what was going on.
So I was, that's a great comment.
Just an observation. Just, you know.
I'm with you. You are absolutely right. But I also think that people may be like, it's not hard to find out. Like if you Google design sprints, you'll get so much information.
Oh, well, we've got
about
a link.
On the internet.
On the internet, on that thing that connects us all and knows everything and is absolute truth.
Yeah.
But the question I did want with that in mind for you, Dan, is what can people not learn about? Like, what's the thing that people like don't know about design sprints, right? Like,
what they don't know. Okay, it's not.
You know.
Yeah, all right.
But they cannot find on the internet.
I can't say that. No one will ever hire me if I tell them the secret. What is it? What is it? Okay, so this is the big reveal of the design sprint is it doesn't matter how many days it is. That doesn't matter. To me, a sprint is a cycle. And the cycle ends once you get the validation. Otherwise, it's just a program. Like if, you know, the whole purpose of a design sprint, as I understand it from the book when it first came out, was how do we quickly test and learn big, bold ideas? And how can we do this at pace and bring a lot of people in without derailing the organization, without making big bets and that? Initially, it was designed as an internal process that Google used, that Jake presented to Google to try and get developers to help them, you know, with the design team as like a team building, as a project. How can we make big, bold steps to beat our competitors? That's my interpretation. It was seen as something maybe from a high, I'm going to read between the lines here, from an exec management level or from Jake level. They felt like, oh, holy crap, we've got a package of something that we can scale and use throughout the business in other areas. And if that is the case, they took Jake and they plugged him into Google Ventures, where he was able to apply that same process, refined through the other venture partners in there, Google, to a small process to bring with other teams and then apply it. People then took that and said verbatim, we're going to run it 5 days. When you think about the cost of a 5-day workshop, not from a business point of view, but from salaries, from opportunity costs, from having all these different people in the room, that won't necessarily lead to something that will show short-term business ROI, it's massive. So as a facilitator and as somebody who provides this type of programs, you have to meet people where they're at and you have to be adaptable. Obviously, you have to keep the pace of the sprint, because that is the power, is the pace. I don't mean that short for, I mean like, you know, between different sections. So for instance, remote, think about people don't run a 7-hour a 7-hour workshop. Do it over a couple of weeks. Run it in phases, like 2-3 hours. And make sure there's lots of breaks. It's all about looking as a facilitator. You have to look after people, because at the end of the day, if people aren't at their best, forgetting about the program, they won't want to participate, and they won't feel prepared and comfortable and in the right mindset to participate and be a part of a process.
Yeah. We just peaked. I think this was just this was the
best. This is the mic drop.
All about there's lots of
especially but it's like the meet people where they are at. I think that was for me sort of what tied everything what we discussed today together. It's like you want to help them move forward, facilitate them, and meet them where they're at to get them to the next thing.
Yeah, but also I think what, like, reading in between the lines of what you said, it's not about so much the methodology. Like we talked about this, Suzanne, before. It's the methodology is there to provide structure, but feel free to play with it, because there's an overarching idea here, a goal here of like actually trying to help the client. So it doesn't have to be 5 days. It could be maybe 3 days is all that they need. Just sort of play with it and see what the client needs in order to get to the next level, I guess.
Yeah. And also an idea, its fidelity stage is going to be at a different stage of the sprint. Like it's either going to be super loose and abstract, which means you need to get clarity, which you need to understand. You might have an understanding, which means that you need a little bit of research to define it so people can get around it and you can sell it. It might be defined, which means you need to build something tangible. So you might need to prototype it, or you might have something to prototype, which means you need help testing it. So you don't always have to run it. You can look at where you're at. I mean, I use design thinking, which is the same process as a methodology that Design Sprint has taken and condensed into a actionable program. I use that to navigate problems and opportunities with clients, and even my personal life. Like, where am I? Like, do I need to define this problem? Like, do I need more clarification? Do I need to get feedback where I'm at? Like, if you just take a step back from the book and actually think about it logically, it makes a lot of sense what you need to define and how you.
Right on, man. Right on. We have to wrap up. I want to flying a cool banner. There you go. Boom. Okay. If you want to learn more about Dan and more Space for Light, check out. And what?
And the future of now. The future of now.
What is it? Tell us about it.
So the future of now is we used to run this in-person event in Melbourne, not in Sydney, in Melbourne. And when the pandemic hit, we switched to online, remote, and we've run about 23 of them. We bring together some of the greatest innovators and experts globally to share their methods and tools that they use to bring into organizations. We've had people from IBM, from Google, Rand Fishkin from Moz. We've got Yuri from the Magic Source, who's like the video guru, innovation expert on LinkedIn. He's amazing.
Yes.
We've got some amazing people come in globally that come in. They share ideas. We're building this beautiful community of facilitators as well as people that are interested in this world. And he's basically saying, like, stop putting stuff off. You can do this. There's organizations that are bringing in these tools and methods right now to invoke change, to help teams overcome big challenges. And we're sharing this, and these guys are helping us share it. And we're, Mural, one of our partners. So people get the opportunity to play with the tools as well as a podcast that we've just launched. Awesome.
When's the event with Yuri? I think it's coming up, right?
It's the Thursday. I'm going to get in trouble.
29th, I think.
It's Thursday the 9th, I think. Let me just tell you. And it's all over the interwebs. It's Thursday the 6th. Thursday the 6th.
Okay. Yeah. So definitely check that out. And you've got a newsletter, which is awesome. It's got lots of grateful tips. No, I'm subscribed, so I get it. And I love it. And there's what?
I'll double check.
No, you could double check. How come I know about Yuri? I was on the last. It was on the last newsletter, and there's a book list. There's an awesome book. There's a book list. A book list.
Book list is wicked. Like so
really
good.
Great books that I like go into at least once a month and pick out a couple of books. So good job.
Yeah. Please, get involved. Join us, participate. If you've got anything to add, that's, it's all about the community. It's like, it's great. We're learning so much.
Absolutely. Suzanne, last words, parting words?
This was absolute awesome sauce.
Awesome sauce.
I love it. Awesome.
You're awesome sauce, Dan. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great weekend. Keep safe. Bye-bye.